all again. So now I'm so happy to introduce Natasha Garcha, who is IIX's Senior Director for Innovative Finance and IIX for Gender Lens Investing Specialist. I didn't have to say it, it's an amazing title. And everything we stand for in this room. So Natasha leads IIX's groundbreaking Orange Bond Initiative and much of the work behind the organization's Women's Livelihood Bond Series. And her broader IIX portfolio spans the Asia Pacific, East Africa, and the United States, much like, again, the countries who are represented in this room this afternoon. And Natasha, you came to IIX from the hedge fund D.E. Shaw, and you also, in all of your abundant spare time, co-founded the Shades of Happiness Foundation, which empowers children from underserved communities in India through access to quality education. It's extraordinary. And so, Natasha, I'm so happy to hear more from you on how the Orange Movement was born. I'm going to talk about
All right. So it's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much, of course, to Australia for making this possible, but also to you and ESCAP. Thank you for having us. My son is here with me, and his first trip is to the Feminist Finance Forum, quite literally with me. And I hope he's like proudly calls himself a feminist and we don't agree. So I hope he heard that. All right. And so with that, I wanted to talk about the power of gender equality. And I think one of the issues with feminist finance so far has always been, we always assume that women are the beneficiaries. They need to be saved. We do not need to be saved. We are actually saving the economy, the planet, and we are also building peace and security. So let me tell you a few facts that we've found through our research at IIX and through the Orange Bond Initiative on what that means. When we talk about prosperity and economic growth, I know there was a popular opinion here, it is very, very true. On the one hand, the big narrative during COVID was women are 1.8 times more likely to lose their jobs, which is true. However, if you add them back into the economy, you reintegrate them into the workforce, you can have $28 billion added back into GDP. At the same time, I come from a hedge fund background, as it unfortunately has been revealed. Back in the day, I switched over from the dark side. But I will say that hedge funds, if you have hedge funds that are managed by women or gender diverse teams, they outperform all male teams by 6%. If you have startups that are founded by women, they outperform by 63%. So when you think about Sheila's Tech, which you heard yesterday, and much of the entities we are investing in, remember those statistics. There's real data behind this. So prosperity, many of you were onto this already. But equally, planet and climate resilience. Women are at the forefront of actually solving climate resilience. For those of you who like statistics, I've run a regression analysis on the Global Adaptation Index with the United Nations Gender Equality Index, and there's a very, very strong correlation. A nation is better positioned to adapt to climate change if it has greater gender equality. Companies pass more green policies if they have gender diversity in leadership. And also, I think one of the important things that we think is half of the world's food is actually grown by women. And if you don't have women as part of solving climate change, you will never actually have a green transition. And peace and security. I know this was not a popular one. However, I know that many of the media attention right now is on wars, some wars more than other, Ukraine, but also on all the other civil unrest that we're seeing, the gender apartheid that's happening in Afghanistan. And if you look at countries that are more prone to interstate conflict, it's the ones with lower levels of gender equality. If you look at peace agreements that last for 15 years or longer, it's the one where women were at the peace table also. So there's real statistics, there's data that proves that there's power in gender equality and power in being a feminist. So what are some of the challenges? It's not all that easy, we know that. And so let me capture some of the key issues that we've seen through actual data that we've collected through the Orange Bond Initiative. The first that you see at the top is the UN SDGs. There are 17 of them. Gender equality, unfortunately, receives the 4th lowest funding from the global bond space. I know we're all very excited that Canada has 400 million. It is very exciting. The global debt bond market has $133 trillion. So we are leaving a lot of money on the table by not tapping into orange bonds as an asset class that actively taps into how the bond market and the private sector can be held accountable. And some of the funding from the donor agencies can leverage that in. So those two connections have to be made. It is not all on the development finance institutions to solve this for us. The private sector has to be held into account. And so what are some of the issues in putting the DNA of feminist financial markets in? The first issue is the lack of a systematic approach. Everything is in a silo. You're either green, or you're orange, or you're blue, or you're social. It doesn't have to be that way. So that's the first thing I'll tell you of how we're solving that. The second issue that we've seen is lack of inclusive leadership. And remember, so we were part of the Green Bond Advisory Council. We were one of the only Asians in the room. So often you find these movements being built by one part of the world, and then we wonder why only Europe is issuing green bonds. So 50% of the green bonds in the market are issued by Europeans because they built the standards. Nothing wrong with Europeans, but we need everyone at the table. So I'm so proud that this event is happening at ESCAP here in Asia Pacific. So thank you again for that. And the last issue that we see is lack of transparency. For the first time last year, the global sustainable bond market actually dipped. It reached $1 trillion in 2021. And it actually dipped last year because the economy was not doing well, but also because of the greenwashing funds. Billions of dollars going towards all of these initiatives, and no one asks people how it was used. No one, when we interview women for our Women's Savvy Bond series, we always ask them, has anyone asked you whether this works or not? And I would say 95% of the time, the answer is no. We're designing solutions without asking the women if the solution will work. So why orange? It is to solve all of this. It is to embed gender in the DNA of financial markets. And as we've heard yesterday, to reimagine what feminist finance could be. The Orange Bond Initiative will focus on a very concrete goal. It is beyond talking about strategy, having convenings, although of course they're very important, writing papers. It has to go beyond that. We have to have a foot in the ground of what we're trying to do. We are trying to mobilize $10 billion by 2030 in line with the UN SDG 2030 agenda, and to empower at least, if not more, 100 million women, girls, and gender minorities globally. So let me talk about the three issues that we saw and how we're solving them. The first is breaking the silos. Orange bonds are a cross-cutting asset class. We are not trying to compete with the funding for green or the funding for social. We really, I remember when we did our first gender bond, and we were looking to say, how do we say it's a gender bond? And there was one little checkbox in the social bond form that says, target population women and other underserved communities. It was one little checkbox. And this is why you need an actual standard that says, what does it mean to be a gender bond? And in our case, what does it mean to be an orange bond? It can also cross-cut with many other asset classes. Four out of the four orange bonds that exist in the market, 2 are also green. And the next orange bond, which you'll hear from later, will actually focus on peace and security, which I'm very, very excited about. But you'll hear more about that later from Sue. The second is, if it's not already obvious, we really want to make sure everyone doesn't just have a seat at the table, they have a voice at the table. Many of us know what it feels like to have a token seat at the table. But to have a voice that influences decision-making is equally important. And that's why we opened up a global pledge. Any of you, when you sign the QR code and signing this, you're actually being picked up. You'll be pulled into events, you'll be pulled into research, you'll be pulled into transactions. So sign the pledge. We're very excited. In 1 year, we've already got 76,000 people who've signed the pledge from all 6 continents, which is truly revolutionary. So, and this has really helped us mobilize all this capital in such a short period of time and impact so many lives of women and girls on the ground. This is a photograph I've taken. I know I've taken it because as my husband will tell you, I cut off people's head for some reason. So I'm definitely taking this one. I'm sorry, but it's a wonderful story. So this is a woman in Cambodia, and I remember distinctly when I met her, she didn't see herself as a beneficiary, as we call them so often. She saw herself as in her language, in Khmer, a climate action champion. She was actually solving something. So we call her an orange bond client. I would be very offended if my bank called me a beneficiary. She is actually taking a loan to ensure that she's part of a sustainable agricultural firm. She's increased her yield by 60%, building food security. She's increased water efficiency by 10%. She's increased her annual income by 50%. And this is a fantastic example of how orange can be a cross-cutting asset class in so many ways. 7 out of 10 million women from this particular orange bond actually also improve climate resilience. And so if you want more details, there's a whole paper on this, but there is therefore this sort of triple helix framework that we've designed that will actually build gender equality into the DNA of financial markets. So we can revolutionize how we start thinking and reimagining feminist finance. And I'll end with something that I've had the great privilege of working on, the Women's Livelihood Bond series, which was designed by our founder, Professor Doreen Shanaz, a woman of color. And I cannot tell you how powerful it is to have a financial instrument that has been designed by a woman for other women of color. True intersectionality for those of you who enjoy feminist philosophy. And this issuance it started off by always looking at traditional social, financial inclusion, affordable housing, many of the SDGs were advanced. But over time, as we listened closely to the voices of the women, we learned that the reason our bonds were not defaulting since 2017 is because we were also looking at things like climate action, about making sure women actually had a voice in what was being benefited. And so all of the orange bonds and this is the inaugural orange bond, was also the green bond. And this is the power of having something that is truly cross-cutting and doesn't silo women into victims or into its own separate little bucket. And with that, I'm very excited to actually show you a video of the Women's Livelihood Bond, which will tell you a little bit about the impact that we've had on the ground. Thank you.